Recording has been started. I'll just give us another 1 or 2 minutes, let people trickle in, and then we can get underway. Right. We have quite a lot of topics to go through here. Not everyone that suggested a topic is here, so we'll probably try and tackle the ones that actually have their posters present first. And then we can try and make some time for other people to filter in as the meeting goes on.
Oh god, you're leading this?
I have been for the past, year or two.
Disgusting.
Feel free to raise a complaint with me.
Yeah, I'm putting in suggestions.
Wait, Poopy, are you whitelisted?
I am.
You are?
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
No,
I am.
Take it away.
The whitelist process must be pretty shitty.
Whoa!
It's a play on words. Relax.
Who are you?
That's funny. That's funny. He said shitty. I get that.
Alright, I'm muting now.
Well, if this is your first community meeting, how we tend to operate things here is the point will be raised, ideally by whoever posts it in the community meetings channel, but if not, then I guess I'll be presenting it. And then the floor is open for people to interject, but if we have quite a backlog of people that want to speak, or if, say, someone is currently speaking and you want to chime in, just put a Q in chat, just like that. That's generally how we operate, but if, no one else is speaking, then just go ahead, honestly. Anyway, who the hell's even here? Trying to see the first topic we have that actually has one of the people that posted it present. To be fair, some of these topics have been there for a little bit. Because first we have Matt. Matt is not here, unfortunately, unless he's got some weird name that I'm not familiar with. We have Doc of the Merrymen, whom I don't see. Hansel, who is also apparently not in Doug Discord anymore, so I'm sure that one will be interesting.
I would ignore that one.
Yeah, right, I'll cross that off. Next on the list is... speak of the devil, Doc has arrived. Mr. Doc of the Merrymen, if you'd like, we can take it away with your topic, because no one else before you is here.
Hey, look at that. Can you read it again?
TeamSpeak usage, edit. So, more of a nice reminder to maybe cover in the next community meeting as to why we have it, why it's a requirement, and some of the etiquettes for all the new groups and factions, especially given the influx of new players to the community.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just it seems like from when I kind of started playing Doug, about 2 years, almost 2 years now, it had a lot more just in general usage. He could go around, he could meet a lot of people, and it just seems overall, it seems like more of a community fit. When you see a lot of people using it, you can hop over and chat with whoever and so. I'm not advocating for or against it being a group or faction requirement, just more of a general reminder for everybody. And perhaps with like that new Doug bot that drops you know information that's relevant for new people to be able to see, maybe have something in there regarding the team speak as well, periodically dropping that. That's pretty much it.
Anyone else have any thoughts on this? Feel free to chime in.
I don't
Um,
mind explaining from our perspective why we like people using TeamSpeak. I think it's
Go ahead.
maybe less relevant these days because you guys mostly behave around each other. But there have been periods of Doug where there was a lot of drama, there was a lot of tribalism, a lot of cliques where people would sort of talk to the people in their clique about how much they hate the other clique and so on and so forth. And we thought TeamSpeak was a very good tool to try and break some of that down. I think the importance of it will be lost on everyone when there isn't as much tribalism and there isn't as much drama going on. That's natural because it feels like it's not needed anymore. But that's our perspective on it. That's why TeamSpeak has been a requirement for groups and factions in the past, and that's why it's nominally a requirement right now.
I think it is good, at least in the you can see people hanging out, and especially if people have a open to all channel or ask to join channel, then you can hop over and step over the lines. Interloper, I see you've queued up if you want to interject as well.
Yeah, I just think, as somebody recently returning, I honestly struggled to find the TS link a little bit. It took me, I mean, maybe 5 to 10 minutes to find it, but just having it posted in more places and maybe, like Doc said, putting it in the rotation of what the bot says in Discord, just put it out there more places that it's posted, the more likely we get people in here. I think that's a generally good thing. And to add on to what Joe said, yeah, the server climate has changed a lot. It's much less faction warfare or tribalism, whatever you want to call it now. There was a trend for a period of time where people preyed upon TeamSpeak activity, and that sucked. Glad that's over with, and I agree it's a great way to integrate new people in the community. Just want to back that up.
I've made a note regarding making the Doug TeamSpeak details more accessible, and perhaps also explaining why we have a TeamSpeak and why we encourage people to use it. So you may see that in the near future.
I like it. Yeah, like heck, I think a month ago I was just chilling in the Merriman Open channel, and I think within that 1 week, like 2 different guys that just randomly hopped in, never met him before, and we're like, "Hey, can you help me connect to, the actual server, Doug? I can't get on and stuff," and kind of walking through it. They hadn't played in several years. Again, kind of just gave him an update, but it was nice seeing new folks like that coming in and being able just to randomly talk without, having to join 30,000 different discords to find people.
Do we have a command for the Doug bot, like, I don't know, exclamation mark TS or something like that, that instantly brings up all the TeamSpeak details? Because if we don't,
and it's something that we'll look into adding.
I think that's a good step. Make it easier to access the information, and they will come, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean that's the carrot, The stick is we force groups and factions to use it. Those are the two tools we have, basically.
If you build it, they will come.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to say on this topic? Any thoughts? Interjections? counterpoints? If not, then we can move on to the next topic. Actually, hold on. If I remember right, I was just looking. No, okay. I thought for a second. Actually, yeah, we do have Danny Boy's topic, which is also about the soft requirement to use TeamSpeak. So I guess we might as well just rope that in with this one. Though I feel like it's right. Discuss the soft requirement of using TeamSpeak, and if the requirement is a true soft or hard requirement, as I see many newer groups and factions never using it, and discuss it, if or how TS usage can be better encouraged amongst new players. From what I understand, using TS is a requirement for factions, which causes concern for newer groups who refuse to use it, or would experience whiplash if they reluctantly have to jump to it to get their faction. Right now, it seems like the web that connects all groups, factions, and solo communication is broken and fragmented, spread across a million private discords. Also, you can use both Discord and TS, and in my personal experience, I get amazing convenience that I would lose if I were restricted to just one platform. Some similar points there, but I feel like it tackles it from a different way. Joe's already given the staff's perspective on the whole TeamSpeak thing, so I guess unless anyone else has anything specific they'd like to say on Danny's point or points, then speak now, or we shall move on to the next one. Oz gave a really good explanation on it too. If you could find that, then I could try copying it and putting it in this chat. Though I think since no one else is really,
It seems like Buck has a queue in there.
Oh yeah,
sorry to interrupt
Buck.
you.
Yeah,
Just
no,
wanted
you're
to draw
good.
attention to that.
Yeah, Buck, go ahead.
Yeah, so his question about whether it being a true soft or hard requirement, I think is not just a good question about TeamSpeak. There's a few things like that that are kind of weird. Like there's just quite a lot of rules that seem soft right now, or like a silly amount of them. And I know the staff is all for, it's up to them and interpretation stuff. But like if we're on the subject, I think giving a little more clarity for groups and factions based on what exactly is expected of them would be helpful. Like with regards
in what exact regard?
in regards to things like building limits and such, and also like in-game behavior, like rating and stuff. I think isolated, all those things are good that they're soft rules, because it's best that staff can just look at them and enforce how it should be, right? But when they're all soft, it does lead to a lack of clarity, I think. Maybe just groups and faction representatives could have a little more insight into what's expected of them, and I think that'd be...
Well, you know what will make us reticent to give more insight is that if we tell people exactly where the line is, then that's where they're going to play.
Yeah, that's fair. That's why I think maybe just group and faction representatives should have a little more of an idea, since they're the ones that are responsible for roping in their group's behavior.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to answer any single question. If you came to me and said, I'm planning to do this raid, is this okay? I'll give you a straight answer every time.
Well, like if I just was like, oh, my group just isn't going to ever use TeamSpeak, what's the consequences? Because they're I think
I'll give you a straight answer for that as well. When it comes to applying for faction status, TeamSpeak is not a hard requirement right now. I would not reject a faction application based off lack of TeamSpeak usage.
Okay. Yeah, so that would be like news to me, I guess. So like things like that, I guess.
Yeah, and I appreciate that that's unclear, and perhaps we should clarify that. But I think as a staff team, we wish that we didn't have to make that exception regarding TeamSpeak usage. We wish people would actually want to use the TeamSpeak. So I guess the rule is a little bit idealistic.
Thank you.
Interloper is next.
Just on the topic of like group and faction requirements, I think it's great that currently there's a lot of leniency. From my perspective, Doug is on an upswing right now and generally doing a lot better than it has in past years, but it's still a process of healing, in my opinion. From my perspective, there is increasing activity, things are improving, and leniency allows people to have more encouragement to experiment and try new things. And maybe once the ball gets more rolling and you have very active groups, very active factions that previously contributed, like factions were required to run like events and stuff. Faction requirements were much, much higher back in the day. It'd be cool to see some of that come back. I don't think it should be as strict as what it was because it can become a full-time job at a certain point. But I think the leniency to allow more to flourish is good.
I think the most important thing when we changed the faction requirements for us was going back to a more qualitative system. We want the best groups to become factions. Before we felt that you were given faction status for existing for a certain amount of time. We would like to bring back things like requiring people to host events, etc. But it's important to balance quality with making it a job, as you said.
Yeah, get people to a certain point and then ask more. If the list is long to start, people can get overwhelmed and back off before they even get started.
I do feel the side of things of you don't want to make it a job. I've been quite vocal that I was never a fan of the requirement of like, oh, you need to put out a story each month, because then that just leads people to just being like, as the months coming to an end, they're like, oh fuck, we need to put out a story, quick, you write about something. And it just ends up being like a bunch of regurgitated like bullshit, basically, just so that they can scrape by.
Yeah, I mean, look, I read all of your stories. It takes a lot of time, but I do it. And I reread them when you apply for faction, and there's no hiding. If you're putting out weak stories for numbers, then it will be quite obvious when it comes time to look at your faction app. And equally, if you're putting out a small number of really good stories, then that will be obvious as well.
I'm at least glad that that's considered.
Can I ask something slightly unrelated, but on the topic of subreddit posts?
Go ahead.
So I don't know if this is a Reddit thing or something to do with Doug as a subreddit specifically, but I've been trying to view my post history, and I cannot see the majority of stories I wrote over the years when viewing my own Reddit profile. Is there something I'm missing settings-wise?
I'm not sure. Is it the older ones you can't see?
Yeah, the old ones. I can find them like going through faction wikis and finding linked things there, but if I go to like post history, it's vastly empty from myself, and I've been confused.
Are you
Definitely
using new
the
Reddit or old
same.
Reddit?
Yeah.
I can help you out with that later if you like, dude.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, new Reddit, the profile is pretty buggy still.
I use old Reddit still, so yeah, I'll help you out.
Thank you.
Right, does anyone else have anything they'd like to say on Danny's topic? If not, then we can move on to the next one.
The only thing I'll say is if people want TeamSpeak to be a hard requirement, then there needs to be a shift in how the community looks at it. We get a lot of complaints from groups about the idea that they have to use TeamSpeak, a lot. And frankly, it's just not worth our time to try and convince them. So that needs to be a grassroots endeavor if people want to see change there.
Right. Next topic in the list is actually your one, Joe, so I leave the floor to you if you'd like to take it away.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this is pretty basic. I feel that raiding has gotten pretty hard on Doug through several small incremental changes over a period of maybe 2 years, 3 years. It's gotten steadily harder, and now I think it's a point where it is quite a difficult thing to do, and we see a lot less raids on the server as a result. The raids we do see are, let's say, cheesy. They're often offlines or with things like sticks or spears. So I wanted to ask, do people feel happy with the state of raiding currently? Do people feel that there are unraidable bases, or do they think that everything's up for grabs? And if the answer is no, we're not happy with how raiding is currently, what do we want to do about that?
Go ahead, Poopy.
Yeah, I think this is like a really good point of like, I don't think that smaller groups can do the raids on these bigger groups, right? Like before, like it used to be where you could get 3 people and a whole bunch of get some sharpening stones and knock down some walls, right? But now, unless you get lucky with being able to boost into a bigger base to be able to do some, funny shit, but you still need enough people to boost, or you need a car, like there's some stuff that you can do to, beat around the bush, but like I do not see like these smaller groups being able to raid a group that hurts them, right? To be able to get is not like stuff to be able to get that, right? Like I've been playing probably like 40 days straight, and I've maybe found like maybe 1 lock hammer, but all the raid tools I've found is from raiding other people. So like it's sitting in bases. It's not me being able to go and loot out, or if we do find stuff, it takes weeks to find, oh, hey, we got 2 C4, and then, hey, all right, we got like a whole bunch of ammo, so now we can raid with that, right? So like, I just don't see it that any small groups can do raids at all, or small groups of people cannot raid big groups. So yeah, that's what I see.
If you'd like to respond, Joe, then go ahead. Then we can move on to Buck.
I agree. I think for my group, there's probably about 6, 7 of us active. There have been groups this wipe that we would just physically be unable to raid. And the raids we have pulled off have been relatively minor affairs.
Go ahead, Buck. If you're done, Joe.
Yes.
I think I've read a lot of the arguments in Discord and kept up with this topic with quite an interest for years at this point. And it's the worst quality of raids that has ever happened. I haven't heard of... So normally, previously on Doug, there'd be quite a lot of online raids and people having big firefights and a lot of fun talking to each other over the wall as the raiding is happening. That just doesn't happen anymore, and the few times it does happen is usually some people that are being very intentional about trying to have a good time with everybody. Raiding still happens, and that's, I think, one of the larger indictments of the community's behavior, is that raiding still happens. It's just so little of it is online. And so that shows, I think, that the ways to raid are that are viable, which is like sticks and garbage, is probably just wrong. They it's not wrong that people use them because they'll use whatever they want, but the ways that the game developers have intended people to raid which is very clearly on vanilla servers, explosives and ammo. That should be what raiding should be generally, and that's how online raids should happen. Should be explosives and ammo, etc. All the other cheesy ways of raiding, I think, are a response to the issue that it's just not good enough on Doug because of the economy of actually getting all that stuff to happen online.
Interloper is next in queue, unless anyone wants to respond to Buck's points that has spoken already. Go ahead, Interloper.
As someone who's been raided, it was funny. Leading up to the actual event, we were hoping to be raided. We were kind of banking on it, and then after it happens, it unfortunately, not to burst Joe's bubble here, but I couldn't even tell what was missing. I too would like to see raiding be a more prevalent threat. It's just, I think what you stand to gain in a raid takes less effort to get than what it takes to raid. If that makes any sense, I might have stumbled over my words there. The effort that goes into raiding somebody is more than the payoff of actually doing it. The loot economy right now, things are pretty prevalent and in abundance. The main thing that you can benefit from raids is story if it's an online one. And I'll leave it short and sweet here, but there's another topic that's coming up later that I think could benefit from this topic as well. We could kill two birds with one stone, make raiding slightly more prevalent, and also incorporate the gas zones into that. But I'll leave it at that for now.
Go ahead, Doc, being a merryman Doc.
Thank you for clarifying on that. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, pretty much what everybody said at this point. I feel, based on own personal experience, that definitely not as much online raiding that I've heard of really this entire wipe, and even good chunk of last wipe. I haven't really seen or heard of that happening. Even going back to like one time in the 506 were attacking and raiding one of our bases that we had. You know, it was online. We had people inside, and there was active conversation happening back and forth. Those are obviously the types of raids that I think are the healthiest. And right now, with the lack of conventional raid tools that are, in the game for that very specific reason, for the most part, causes a lot of what we're seeing now with alternative methods, which take longer, are riskier, and thus, I think, incentivize people to do it purposely when somebody's not home. Otherwise, it really wouldn't be doable. That's all I got to say on that.
Go ahead then, Buck, unless anyone else wants to respond.
I think that there's solutions for balancing this, and it'd be a two-sided approach. One would be with the economy in game, and then two with enforcement of rules. If wall HP was reduced proportionately, or proportionally with how raid tools and ammo, etc., explosives are balanced on Doug, because they're not vanilla. So the wall HP, I don't think, should be vanilla. And then every just alternative method should just be nerfed into absolute ground. Just make raiding feel closer to, vanilla. Make it viable, and you don't have to actually, make ammo more common if the wall HP is proportional to it. And you just take all the alternatives away so people aren't sneaking offline and stuff. Well, the vanilla wall HP being what it is, making the alternative methods what they are is why the thing should be absolutely, nerfed. However, if you do that now, no one's going to be rated for quite a long time until people can save up enough to finally raid someone. But if you just make it so that the only way to really raid is loud, and with explosions and gunshots, I think there's going to be a lot more of what we actually want to see.
Raiding, it's kind of already been touched upon, but raiding really is just about time. It's either the time you're spending to find the raiding materials, or the time you're using to smack down walls with dog shit, sticks, and farming hose and whatever else. I definitely do. I would much rather see more raids that involve like ammo raiding or explosives than just someone appears at 3 in the morning and pokes down my walls with a stick, and then you come back in the morning and then everything is gone. It's, yeah, I think a lot, can be traced back to those wall HP buffs, because the wall HP was buffed to the moon, but then nothing else was buffed aside from that, so the only thing that was kind of made in response to that, I suppose, was C4. Lockhammers, maybe, because they still retain their effectiveness, but everything else, like ammo, melee, grenades as well, not that you'll find many of them on Doug, has fallen quite far down the pecking order, unfortunately. So, Doc, do you want your cue now, or do you want to wait, like, to the end?
Yeah, I'll wait till the end.
Alright, okay, so Reggie is next, then, and our unidentified TeamSpeak user after Reggie. Go ahead, Reggie.
So, I know I've partaken in eco raids. Particularly, it was crossbow raiding at the time, which was rightfully removed because it was broken. My thoughts on it, like, for one in particular, we managed to do the raid with people in town, and they didn't notice that we had raided them because it was quick and quiet. And that, I think, is probably a big reason why it was removed and should have been removed. But I guess what I would suggest in terms of everything we've talked about is to, I would rather see melee rating be removed, because right now, as it stands, like, I found maybe one lock hammer this wipe, and I don't think I found any C4. And I'm not really interested in trading for that stuff. I could probably, but if I was going to raid somebody, it would probably be a stick raid, because it's just the easiest and most economical way to do it. I think that should be. I would rather see that removed and see louder options be promoted, because it's one thing to do an offline raid. It's another thing to do an online raid, but then to do an online raid that's still stealth is just as pointless, in my opinion, as an offline raid. I think the only stealth option that there should be would be lockhammers. I think those should be made a little bit more common, because I've seen one like naturally spawn this wipe personally. And when it comes to ammo and explosive rating, ammo has a rarity on this server, which personally I really like. It adds a lot of value to ammo. Grenades have a lot of value. C4 really, its main purpose is to blow down walls. So I would like to see C4 and detonators spawn more often, as a caveat to balance the removal of melee rating, if that were the case.
Unidentified TeamSpeak user, your queue is up if you would like to go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's Navi in game. Anyway, on about the raiding situation, I think it's at the moment quite difficult for you to raid big groups, large groups. But I mean, when it comes to solos, people that play solo or maybe in a duo and have therefore small bases, it's quite easy to raid them. So like one of my concerns, it's if we make it easier for people to raid big groups to lead to the continuation of stories and interaction, etc. We inadvertently make it easier for solo players or duos to be raided, and that concerns me a bit because when people come to the server, there is initially a barrier to entry, and these people have difficulties getting into established groups or getting into the stories, and sometimes they decide to build their first base in a house or in a shack or something like that. And it's a concern of mine that these people will be negatively affected if raiding is made more efficient. That said, it's definitely should be easier to raid big groups than it currently is. And I think it should be about mostly about explosive raiding and ammo raiding. But for interaction purposes, I think this has already been touched upon, because if you raid with lock hammers, you can do it, but first, the fun factor, it's quite a bit boring to do it, and besides, I think if you raid with things that make noise, ammo and explosives, it will lead to more gunfights around bases, and I think those are lacking from personal experience. Even if the server is quite full or high pop, if you use it with lock hammers, you are not going to get interaction, and it's not going to be as fun for either side, and you do not give the defender a chance to actually defend. That's it.
Carter of the Fireflies is next, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So it's a little bit off the beating path, but you're going to change the CLE with ammo and explosives or make doors have less health. Can we please have the modded doors be cheaper? Because they are so goddamn expensive. Like, without metal sheets, it's 75 nails for that. I think it's the double.
We can't
wood door.
repack that mod. We can't edit it, as far as I'm
Gotcha.
aware.
That sucks. That was...
There is an option to... There's a config file in the mod where you can change the cost.
All right, CCE.
I posted it to CCE 2-3 weeks ago.
Nice. Okay, well, it's in motion then.
Okay, well, that was my take. Just because if it's easier and you're losing a really expensive door, it's just going to just kill someone's morale that's like a solo or a duo. Because it's like more than a box of nails to build one of those big doors. It's my piece.
Doc is next in queue, if you'd like to go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, that the door is just an aesthetic, right? The wall's just as good, but as far as I understand, I mean, but I mean, I wanted to just take in everybody's opinions, and that's why I wanted to go last, because it's basically just going to take the team at this point discussing it, and I mean, we always take it serious, but sitting down and saying, all right, we want to do a change, and I think we're going to pull each other aside here and talk this stuff out. And because, we've gone back and forth on it, here, there. But yeah, at this point, I'd say, yeah, we've got a lot of people in your staff here, and we'll go ahead and sit down and see what we can hammer out with Diesel. I just want y'all to know we're hearing it and we're taking it in. And yeah, I'd like to see some changes myself. So we'll get with the team together and try and come to a solution.
Something I find worth considering as well. Of course, I see the... Okay.
Excellent point.
Excellent interjection. Something... Oh, fuck's sake, that really derailed my train of thought. Something worth considering, even if we do make explosives a little bit more frequent or something along those lines. There's still the consideration of I don't think they would ever be made as common as they are on, say, vanilla, to the point where you can just grab a backpack full of plastic explosives and detonators and then start blowing your way into like every like one shitty little one-door house. Of course, one-door bases or smaller bases are pretty tricky to maintain as is standard, but I definitely think that most of those explosives would be saved for, oh well, there's no point in us raiding into this like 2-gate house that like has a couple crates in it when we can go for our hated enemy that has this massive compound with a big fortress house stacked high with loot. Solo bases, at least. Yes, 12 gates, Poopy, though I'm not sure you'd get away with that in the current climate. Anyway, does anyone else have anything they'd like to say on this whole raiding topic? I think we've quite universally agreed that there is certainly an issue there and that boom booms are better than poke poke.
Yeah. Leave a fucking note.
Would you like to hear more than I could possibly contribute, or save that for later? I might be jumping the gun a little bit. Just thought I'd ask.
More to contribute in terms of raiding, or like something more general?
It's rating specific.
Oh, yeah.
It just also involves another topic.
Yeah, in that case, you might as well just go for it. Especially if it pertains to this topic.
Yeah, I think one thing that other people have mentioned is that the Mollusk has some nice mechanics on it. There is a journey/adventure hard baked into mechanics of Namalsk, and bringing something like that to Doug could increase the fun factor of raiding. You could create a journey experience around getting raiding supplies, and this could be done by not relying solely on the rarity of item drops, because it's subjective based on experience. You could trip over a dozen M4s in a day if you're lucky with how Daisy economy works, unfortunately. So relegating objects to harder to access areas and making them guaranteed could increase sort of an adventure-like experience for players. Gas zones could become the dynamic event for plastic explosives. I know in my post I mentioned they could be farmable. If that's too far, you could even just make them static spawns of 1 to 2, 2 to 3 within the zones. And then you have raiders who now need to be like, okay, we need to get NBC suits together. We got to go out, get our supplies. We know where to find them. We just got to work for it. And if it's limited enough in where that could happen, you increase choke points on the map and create competition to make raiding happen. People could monitor those avenues and figure out who is planning to raid. And if they know who is planning to raid, they might be able to guess that they're the target as well. So it just increases likelihood of preparedness and people being online for a raid, because people will hear, oh shit, so-and-so was out in NBC gear getting explosives. We saw them. They might be headed our way soon.
Doc is next in queue if you're done, Interloper.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, with the topic of raiding, just in general, if you're new to raiding on the server, please ask the admin team like the do's and don'ts of raiding before doing it. I think asking for forgiveness versus asking for permission on shit is kind of like, if you don't know what you're fucking doing and you're gonna just steamroll and leave shit everywhere and not leave a note, then I really don't feel bad for you at all. And, if you don't know how to raid somebody without being a dick, or then you probably shouldn't be doing it. I could give you an example, and it was Joe's group raiding FM, the Frontiersmen. It was a message they sent. They left a note. They signed it. You know what I mean? Like that's why Interloper said he didn't know what exactly they took. It's because they didn't like destroy everything and steamroll the place. That was a really good raid. versus something that, like, I will even use the example of happened to FL on in just last week or so. Stuff was everywhere. It was completely offline, and there was no note. So yeah, it's asking for forgiveness. I really don't feel fucking good for you if you're asking for forgiveness. You should know what you're doing before you do it. That's it.
Anyone else have anything further on this? Go ahead, Poopy.
For what Interloper said, I think that that was a pretty cool idea. Is that something for like CCE though? If that's like a CCE suggestion.
It's already in CC.
Okay. All right. Cool. I mean, I think that sounds like a cool suggestion. I just don't know because you obviously need NBC gear, right, to go in there. That takes away from maybe the smaller groups if they're not as if no other changes are made, being able to constantly be able to get raid supplies and raid tools. Maybe, I don't know. Obviously, I think something needs to change, but I mean, I think that's a pretty cool suggestion.
Have Vibor Industrial be gassed or something, and one of the only places you can find C4. Go ahead, other doc.
Real doc, yeah, thank you. I was just gonna ask, what was the latest on the Lockhammer spawn fix or something? Because like from my understanding, they weren't like, say you get one that spawns damage, but it's not like full damage, whatever the actual percentage there is, meaning you find an actual spawned Lockhammer that's damaged doesn't mean it's going to be able to actually always break a, say, spawned 4-dial that's damaged as well, which we've had happen already a couple times, I think, this wipe. That is partly annoying. Or like, even if it's pristine, it may mean it's like 95% pristine, so you can't go and knock out a pristine 4-dial with it. I thought Diesel had mentioned that was something he was working on or had a solution for, but I was just looking for an update on that.
Or assuming any staff are here that can speak on the state of the CCE. I know Desync used to do that, but I'm not sure if anyone else knows where some of these things are at.
So I'm not on the mod team, but I know I've talked to them about it. They are still trying to make that work, where lockhammers will be guaranteed to take down a lock, a conditioned state. They are working on that.
All right, good to know. Just want to make sure.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to throw into the ring on this topic? Go ahead, Poopy.
All right, last thing. All right, so on the rating thing, I think also this can be brought a little bit back to the TeamSpeak topic and being in a community topic, right? If you do a shit raid or you act like bad in game, you kind of should get that feedback from the community, and you should hear that, and you should be available for the community, right? Perfect example, if a raid was committed on, like, we did a raid a week ago on the Men of North, and they never jump in TeamSpeak, and they didn't know who to reach out to, but we're in TeamSpeak all day, every day, and they could have jumped in and talked to us or whatever may be, right? Or people that do shit raids don't sign something, but everybody knows who did it. They can't talk about it because they're never in TeamSpeak, stuff like that. Like, I think that really should be, and like I think Joe said it earlier, like it should be on us to push that. I believe that's what you said, Joe. And like, I think people out of character should be held accountable to acting shitty, even if it's me or our group acting shitty, whatever it may be, right? In raids and stuff. So I just think that needs to happen, and then also like, yeah, constructively, not negatively.
I think everyone needs to ask themselves, if you're doing a raid and not taking credit for it, what are you doing it for? I mean, ultimately, you're doing it for pixels, I guess. You're doing it for gear.
Yeah.
But That's never really been the prime driver of what makes Doug interesting. Obviously, the game will always be a little bit about gear, but it can be about a lot more.
Anything else anyone would like to bring up? Been quite a lengthy discussion about raiding, which is good because I think it's been long overdue, to be honest. So hopefully we can rest assured that things will be put in motion and discussions will be had over what the hell to do with it. Okay, if there's no more from this topic, I will mark this as completed, and we can backtrack a little bit because Matt has decided to join us. And Matt's topic is actually the first on our list about cars, if Matt is available and not having his attention monopolized by a child or something.
I can speak for a minute, yeah.
Go ahead.
If you have a car, use it. I'm done. Just use the fucking cars. It's not like, don't just let them sit places. Use them to travel around the map. Don't store your shit in them. Store supplies that you need to travel somewhere, or store supplies to fix the goddamn car, but just for God's sakes, just use the goddamn things. I need rides up north. Just come by Steroy, please. Pick me up.
Go ahead, Doc.
So yeah, like it's annoying to see stuff in cars when, I mean, whatever the reason, but like I'll use another example. You know, there's a group that had like 2 cars stored and all the tires off of them, and then all kinds of junk inside them, right? And then I go around to each individual place that they have loot stored, and they've got tires in it. So I get they're storing the tires so nobody steals their cars. But then you have the junk in there. So to me, it makes it look like you're just using that shit, and you probably only take the car out. And I don't know what you're going to do with all the loot in there. But yeah, if you got to go that far with it, I mean, just give up the fucking car. Like, you have tents, you have all kinds of stuff you can make just from the coast. You don't need to be storing shit in the car. Take them out, use them, stop hoarding them. You know, at one point in time, I saw like 4 cars in a truck, and it's just like, leave the fucking car there. You don't need all those cars. Like, let somebody else have one.
It's also actual.
Yes, we will take a look, Clyde. By the way,
we do.
Nice. It's also actually
It's just,
a lot.
You know, the only reason I didn't delete those cars is because I found those tires, and at one point in time, I really still wanted to do it.
If
Like,
we
it's
see a
just like,
car
come
with all
on.
the tires off of it and it's been sitting there, and we'll check it every so often and just make sure it's actually moved or like driven around. Like, it's not hard to just, like, if you have a vehicle, use it when you're going to travel long distances. That's all we're asking. And just don't store your shit in it. It's not for storage. It's to transport shit. If you're moving bases, if you're driving stuff up to RCC, like, just fucking take the car and drive around. Risk it. It makes it fun for everyone.
Also, if your car gets stolen and then you successfully track down whoever stole your car and steal your car back, it is one of the best fucking feelings ever.
Or destroy it.
Yeah,
that
like,
too.
Damn, we've got like 2 cars, maybe even 3. I'm not sure, but we fucking drive them things and wreck them almost every day. Then we go find another one in 2 more days or whatever. Like, we're constantly wrecking because Chef can't drive.
Amen.
Is he even here to defend himself? Oh, there he is. And Chef is gone. We've successfully cyberbullied him out of the community meeting. Good job, everyone. Right. Anyone else have anything else to say on this car topic? I feel like it is pretty... Oh, go ahead, Runa.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants to see cars used more, and I think something that would help that is if perhaps cars just spawned with all their tires and the tires were not removable. It makes stealing cars a lot easier. Because you know what the people who steal cars do? They go and use that car. That's why they're stealing it.
Yeah.
CC on.
But what if the
The
tires
person you need to
ruin?
convince if you want tires to spawn with their attachments is Diesel, and Diesel will tell you to make a CCE thread and vote it up.
If you do make that CCE thread, you should also make the tires immortal, because I can only imagine how fucking shit it would be if your cars had like its tires glued on and they were all ruined, so you're just kind of sluggishly like moving along at like 5 miles an hour, meet a single incline, and you're like, well, I guess I'm fucked now. But yes, definitely make that a CCE suggestion. Anyway, if no one else has anything else to say on this suggestion, I think that's a good point to end it up on. So I'll check that off. Our next suggestion, let's try and go through suggestions of people that are actually here.
Dean, if you want to throw the Revenant ones out yourself, because I know neither of them are going to be here, but I'm happy to address them.
All right. Okay. Well, I don't think May is here.
I don't think Elias is here either.
Yeah, okay, we can just knock out these two right now. So we have from May, can we maybe discuss group sizes? Should admins put a solid cap on how big? And from Elias of the Revenants, throw soft mega alliances in there. Also, big hero group being friends with big bandit group doesn't really make sense. It just seems like there's a vast array of groups being friends and only looking for conflict with smaller groups than themselves and such.
Okay, so on the topic of group sizes, I have one word, and it's behave. We're not going to start putting limits on groups, numerical limits. We will reach out individually to any group that we feel are taking the piss with how big they are and tell them that they're taking the piss and they need to downsize. For the rest of you, don't worry about how close you are to that limit. I promise you that you'll have to try really hard to get anywhere near it. But yeah, in general, behave yourself and it will be fine. As for the Mega Alliances thing, I have less to say, but I will say that ultimately it will reflect on any group that goes to apply for faction status if they have a bunch of friends who really don't make any sense. So from my angle, and from Shifty's angle, and Dill's angle, and anyone who might be working on faction app reviews in the future, we will look at that stuff and we'll ask ourselves, is this group playing what they claim to be playing? And if the answer is no, then that will reflect poorly.
Go ahead, Poopy.
I mean, this is the age-long thing that's been going on for the last 4 years. People talk about this every once in a while, and it just seems people need to behave like Joe said. If your group is not going to be friends, like Damn and the Fireflies aren't going to be working together, right? So just make it make sense. If you care about your group or faction, whatever, like, I don't know, like, it's cheesy to see, you know, I've been in a time where there was you know, Damn helping 506 out or something like that. Didn't make any goddamn sense. And so, like, just seems like something we need to do, just like the TeamSpeak usage, where it's like, just be smart and don't be cheesy. I don't know.
Interloper is next.
With the Omega Alliance concern, I think occasionally there are connections that form that don't make sense outside looking in, but there is more nuance to interactions than just alignment. And what may seem cordial one day could be a ploy to get closer to one's enemy. You never really know what's going on behind the scenes outside looking in, so tact is always required.
That is also a point. Something like Damn and Odyssey's relationship is very up and down, in flux almost by its nature, but there has been a history of Group A hates Group B's guts but then suddenly members of Group A and Group B start playing Arma 3 Anti-Stasi together on the weekends. Suddenly Group A and Group B are best of buds. Those are the sort of instances that we want to hammer down on.
Absolutely. I think it's fun to kill your friends, honestly. It's a good time. I recommend it to everybody.
Yes. Especially like talking about it afterwards.
Yeah, it's the best way to have laughs. Kill your friends, enjoy people that you know won't get mad about it.
Yeah, if it makes sense within the realm of whatever relationship you've built with the other faction over however long you've been playing, then go for it. But if you're doing it from OOC means, just keep that shit out. Like, just if something happens in game where a bad group and a good group are friends and they end up being friends after like years of being bad, like that's fine. But if you're like, oh, I like this guy OOC, so now all of a sudden we're gonna switch up and like go fuck with this other, like, don't do that shit. It just causes fucking issues.
Right. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to say on this topic? If that's a no, then I'll mark both of these as completed. As it goes with the community meetings, these next two topics, because they have more downvotes than upvotes, are not being discussed. So the next one that we have, which I'm sure will be a funny one, is from Oswald. Remove dynamic gas. Go ahead, Poopy.
Alright. Seems dumb. Just don't build somewhere where there's dynamic gas and don't do something in a dynamic gas zone. I don't know. Like, seems a thing that, what's it called? Vanilla thing that we shouldn't remove just because it inconvenienced somebody. And yeah.
I also, before we continue with the rest of the cues, would like to point out that when this suggestion was made, there is already a remove dynamic gas thing that is working its way through the CCE. I think it's...
Yeah, Lewis, that's why I did mention, sorry about that. Just don't interact somewhere where it's a possibility.
Anyway, Reggie is next in queue, so feel free to go ahead, Reggie.
I was pretty much going to say the same thing about it already going through the CCE. The only other thing I know that there was another CCE suggestion about changing how the dynamic gas works, in terms of being like a place to get quality, either raid gear or just higher quality gear. That's something that I've always supported. Like, I think that would be an awesome idea, and as far as I'm aware, it is possible with the dynamic gas being considered an event, that it can spawn loot with the gas grenades on vanilla servers. And then in the previous patch, Bohemia Interactive updated it and fixed it so that those gas grenades would despawn before the gas despawn, thankfully. I haven't been back on vanilla enough to know whether you can just sit outside the gas zone, wait, and like keep the loot from despawning while the gas despawns. So I think it's something worth looking into more, I guess. But that's all I had.
Go ahead, Interloper.
Nobody's surprised I have something to say here. I won't go off too much, but basically, I think it's a great tool that we could use to fix the rating issue that was already discussed. It can be a step in a journey that is dynamic and interesting. It can happen in different places, and it can increase competition. I think the majority of the problem comes from how frequent they are. They are annoyingly common. As someone who lived in Starry Yar for quite a while, you hear booms nonstop. I get it. Changing the frequency would quickly solve that. there's really easy, just basically notepad sheet entries to change the values for those events, and something greater can be made of them, and it can be a place for PvP interaction and challenge.
Anyone else have anything to say on that? Because I do like the idea of, as you put it in the suggestion, it's kind of like a heli crash, but with extra steps. A heli crash that you need to be prepared for. You can't just waltz on up to it like a normal heli crash, whereas with this suggestion, you'd actually have to have a full NBC kit to be able to take advantage of it.
And just to add as well, if there's any troubles when it comes to developing that, I'm happy to throw in my hand. I've developed multiple mods that people probably haven't considered. I worked on one that was natural medicine made from in-game berries, mushrooms, etc., based on real biological data about those plants. It was a tea system. So I've made some mods that definitely push the limits of what people think of when it comes to DayZ.
Chef, go ahead.
So I do have a question about this. Say we did this, right? Because I know going around the map, seeing like dynamic, like the police events. Because if you go to like an event, I'm pretty sure that's already despawned, you'll see most of the items still there if they're not picked up, right? So what's stopping? Like, say, you watch a gas zone, right? What's stopping people from just sitting there? And, instead of, this whole thing of us, to go in there, it takes risk to go in, but what stops people from, just waiting on it? I don't know if you're able to actually set timers on certain items that spawn in like that to say, disappear when the gas goes away. So I'm just curious about that.
I know Reggie's next in queue, but Interloper, you can respond if you'd like, if you're more knowledgeable on this.
Yeah, there is a line in the code for a cleanup option related to heli crashes. So after they despawn, it gets wiped up, and it can be adjusted.
Along with that too, with the event coding, if I remember right, there is part of that is establishing like a radius around the event that prevents it from despawning. So like heli crashes and stuff like that, I think it's like 1,000 meters on vanilla or something. So if somebody's within that range, it won't despawn. So if that's smaller than the gas zone, then ideally that would work, but it's still there's still a couple ways it might be able to be abused that I could think of.
Clyde, go ahead.
Regarding the cleanup for the dynamic gas zones, like, is there a way to specifically target the items that spawned with the gas, or will it just clean up every item that spawned in the town? Because I could see that maybe being an issue.
The items are tied to the event itself. There's like an event cleanup, so it's all part of the same entities that get picked back up.
So it's only the stuff that spawned with the event?
Yeah, only the stuff that spawns with the event.
Got it.
Anyone else have anything further to bring to the table here? If not, then actually, I don't think we actually have any more topics than this. So if anyone else has anything, another sort of thing they'd like to bring up to the floor, any questions they'd like to pose towards any of the staff members that are here, then the floor is yours. I leave the ball in your court. Failing that, though, you can all consider yourselves dismissed, unless, I don't know, maybe staff even have some sort of statement or anything they want to say, as has been the case at previous meetings, but I leave that with you.
Be nice, behave yourselves, have fun.
Love you.
Hog. Right.
My little illegitimate children.
Ew.
Oh boy.
I feel dirty.
Right. I think that will be about it for this meeting. Not actually as long as I was expecting it to be, I'm not gonna lie.
Can we ban Chef from driving?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, Poopy, I set your client description. Have fun.
If Chef gets into a car, he immediately crashes out of the game.
I don't deserve any of this. Hello?
You do deserve it. I'll send everybody videos.
Very topical. I
We have
meant to
proof,
include
Chef.
CJ.
Right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you
we should
for
let that
allowing my ass to be a hard ass.
Oh no,
Y'all are the best.
We put a note around your name already.
Yeah, you're
Oh, I
flagged.
believe it.
Execute
Yeah, I
on
believe it.
site. No.
Drop. That's all it says.
I like his ideas.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
I'm never coming to community meeting again with Poopy.
Thank fucking God.
No,
Poopy, if you like my ideas so much, you should have joined FM, you loser.
I was waiting for my people to come back. I didn't know they were going to come back. They all came back.
Not because of you. Don't worry.
No, it was because of me.
Jesus is gonna go back home, and I'm gonna make a new character for y'all.
Does the chef have a poop knife?
Yes. Does the chef have a poop knife?
I don't know how to. I don't know how to answer that question.
well,
Me neither.
Alright, time to leave.
You have to be a Reddit reader. You have to be a Reddit reader for that one. That's
Yeah, by the
Reddit
way.
old lore right there.
You guys don't know about the poop knife?
Yeah,
No.
Jeez.
it's I'll find you the story if you care to read it.
Speaking of that,
I don't know if I want to read it.
Reddit stuff.
Reddit stuff. Oh, you don't have. Hold on.
No, not yet.
Oh, the poop knife is not a Doug story.
Mm.
I
Never
mean, it
mind.
could be if the chef stabbed Poopy.
It sounded like a Doug story.
No, it's about a family who legitimately had a poop knife. Like it was fucking weird.
Oh God.
If it's too big to go down, you gotta cut it with something.
Yeah,
Jesus. What the
God.
fuck?
and it was like
You just
wasn't
have
it
like a little paring knife by your toilet?
Yeah, it was something like that. Like I think somebody was staying over
Like a
there when
pickle
you didn't
knife?
use the poop knife or some. I can't remember. It's been a long time.
Poopy, you want to log in and meet me by the outhouse, or?
Hell yeah.
Oh God.
Well, isn't that? Oh, that's where like the Doug thing or DayZ thing comes into play. So like, why do you always find knives at the outhouse?
Or the
They know.
sharpening stones? The
Right?
real question is the sharpening stones, because I swear that's the only place they spawn, dude.
Yeah, they are shaped weird.
So in kits too.
What?
What? I
There's
said they're
some.
they are shaped weird, aren't they, Chef?